Hello, Barb.
Hi, Cynthia.
How are you?
I'm sick. I have a cold.
Are
Yeah.
you, are you sure it's just a cold?
Well, who knows? You know, it could be a cold. It could be COVID. It could be who knows what. I tested negative, and then today it was kind of like negative slash positive. And then I tested again and it was negative. So who knows?
Right.
I talked to my pharmacist too, and they said it doesn't matter anymore. If you are not feeling well, you just have to stay home, whether you have COVID or you don't have COVID.
Mhm.
You just have to stay home until your symptoms clear up, and
Yeah.
and that's really all you can do.
It's been
So,
quite a
anyways,
month.
it's been quite a month. Yeah, I'm gonna let you do most of the talking. I'll just correct you when you make a mistake.
Well, it's we've been sharing this. I've been out. I'm just back in the store after being gone for just over 2 weeks
Uh,
because COVID has taken its place in my family. I was a close contact, and then I got it, and yeah, it's been a journey. And I think your pharmacist is completely right, Barb. Doesn't matter what you have. If you're not feeling well, you should stay home. And
yeah.
that's a little bit of a switch up for us. So for those of you who are joining us, perhaps for the first time, Barb and I have a yarn shop in Edmonton, Alberta called River City Yarns, and we do a monthly podcast from the store, and we talk about what it's like behind the scenes here in our yarn shop. And over the last 2 years, our yarn shop and ourselves, we've seen quite a change in the way that we do business, and we do a lot of stuff now online and by Zoom. And so we figured, if we can't get together to do our podcast, let's just go back to the way we were doing it back in the lockdown days, and we'll just do it by Zoom. Uh,
Yeah. And to tell you the truth, it's so much easier, right? You don't have to leave home. It's the comfort of your own little space here. And it's just as cozy. I was, saying to Ann Budd today, it'd be so nice just to do another little meetup with her and have coffee together, because it really does seem intimate. We can see each other, and yeah, it works out well.
Yeah, it does. This is episode 70 of Podcast On, and we're coming to you from our individual undisclosed locations somewhere in the city of Edmonton, Alberta, to talk to you about yarny things. Um, we are your hosts. My name is Cynthia, and I'm here with my lovely sister, Barb. Give us a wave, Barb. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get started, tell me tell me about that lovely sweater that you're wearing. What is it?
Mm. This is what's it called? I forget.
You do have
Uh,
COVID.
I do. Yeah, COVID brain, and it's a lovely sweater. It was done in felted tweed, and it's part of Marie Green's 4-day knit-along sidetrack. No,
Oh,
soundtrack.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, yeah, and I love it. It's just a really nice. This was felted tweed, and this I think was Noro yarn that changed colors in the yoke. And it's a top-down yoke sweater.
It's
It's
beautiful.
the perfect day. Yeah, it's the perfect day for wearing it.
Yeah,
It's nice and crisp outside.
yeah.
I haven't
And
been outside.
I'm wearing my Pemberton. Uh,
Oh, I remember that one.
yeah, this one's done in pieces, and it's a set-in sleeve sweater. It's a with garter. It's a garter with it's a Gansey style sweater with lots of knit and purl patterns on it, set in sleeves, a little exposed shoulder join. And it's, like you say, just a lovely, cozy sweater, which is really nice to have this time of year because
Mm,
it's October and we're looking at Thanksgiving coming up.
that's right. Is that
Mm.
this Sunday?
Yeah, this coming weekend is Thanksgiving. So, what's your favorite thing to eat on
Oh,
Canadian
I
Thanksgiving, Barb?
yeah, I love turkey and cranberry sauce and pumpkin pie and yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
Oh, well, I managed to scoop up a bag of frozen Saskatoons from a
Oh,
vendor at the farmers market here in the west end of the city, and so I'm making Saskatoon pie. And for those
wow.
of you who don't know what a Saskatoon berry is, Google it. It's the most delicious thing on the planet, although it may be kind of an acquired taste. Okay, so Barb, what do we want to talk about today? I think we've maybe got some things that have happened in September that we wanted to kind of revisit because we didn't get a chance to talk about them last month. I mean, they obviously happened last month, but we're at the beginning of October. So, what was the highlight of September for you?
Well, I think it was the pop-ups. They were a lot of fun. Yeah, we had lots of vendors in, and it was our first kind of well, full month of being open on Saturdays, and so that was really fun to see customers who we hadn't seen for so long come on back in the shop.
Yeah, that's right. And so one weekend in September, we featured our own hand painted yarns. So
Mm.
this summer, Barb and I have been busy dyeing some of our epic yarn in 100-gram hanks, and they're on the website under Epic Hand Paints 100 grams. We had a lot of fun with that.
That was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The shop smelled like wet wool, and so we still have we dyed all of our epic dye hanks that we had on hand, and then we found a box of sock blanks and we started to dye those.
Yes.
And then there was some undyed yarn from custom woolen mills that we had on the wall, and I noticed now that it's kind of moved into the dye queue. So look out, folks. Anything here that hasn't already been dyed, we've been having so much fun. We might just, put it in a dye bath and dye
I'm bringing a few old towels to the store too. I think I could dye those.
it.
Yeah, it
Sure,
could be
why
a
not?
yeah.
But we also had a visit. We had a pop-up shop with Ashley I want to say MacGyver, but it's Ashley McKeever from Comfy Cozy Knits, and Carrie from A New Rain Design. And I was really sad because I wasn't able to come that Saturday. I was quite sick. But you got to spend a bit of time with them, and I got to do some purchasing via our friend Connie. She sent me pictures, and I said, "Yeah, that one," and "Yeah, that one." So Barb took this beautiful video of all of Carrie's designs from A New Rain Design and of Ashley's yarns. She kind of specializes a little bit in self-striping yarns, which is really nice. And so when you get to the end of this video, we'll have a link to the pop-up shop videos. So we'd encourage you to watch them. And if, like us, you got kind of inspired by something you saw, you'll be able to contact each of those makers and arrange a purchase if you'd like. That was
Mhm.
really good. All right. And then, Barb, again, I was too sick to come into the store, but you happened to be there when we had a special guest come by on her drive from Vancouver going east. Tell us about that.
Right. Yeah, Stephanie and Joe dropped by. They were on like I think week 4 of a long trip. I think or maybe it was even longer. They had driven all the way to Vancouver and stopped in Banff on the way down and attended a wedding. So that was really nice to visit with Stephanie again. We're so lucky because we get to see her, you know, every so often at retreats and events. But since COVID, we kind of haven't seen her. So that was lovely. And she was so sad that you weren't there to give her a big hug. I got my hug in just before I got sick. So let's just fingers crossed. I was wearing a mask all the time with Stephanie, so hopefully I didn't transfer anything to her.
And by Stephanie, we mean the Stephanie,
Hmm.
the yarn harlot Stephanie Pearl McPhee, and her husband Joe. Did you get to meet Joe? Did he come in too?
Yeah, well, we've met Joe before. Maybe you don't remember, but he had come one year when Stephanie was teaching at
Yeah.
the hotel, and yeah, it was nice to kind of have another visit with him. Yeah, and then we had that little care package pulled together for Stephanie. She just dropped in for needles, and she went home with much, much more. Isn't that the way?
I saw in the picture that you sent me, I saw she was holding a skein of bee's knees, the Yarnicorn for September in her
Yeah.
hands, and yeah.
Love that color. She told me she saw that color on Instagram and knew that she wanted one of those. So that just it leaped itself into her arms. And then she got two skeins of Julie Aslan's Yarnicorn. She got mm,
Oh,
number one
purple
and
carrots.
purple carrots, number one and number two. And while she was there, she was trying to figure out what color, and it was a tough decision because her daughter is very particular. This was to be a baby layette. And so she had clear instructions about colors that not to get and colors to get. So she texted her pictures and she said, "Yes, I love that lavender." So it worked out perfectly.
Oh, that's great. That's really good.
Mm.
Now, obviously, we love Stephanie, and obviously, she is, a dear friend and a beautiful person. But we want you to know, too, those of you who are local or who are coming through Edmonton, we're always happy to welcome you in the store as well. If it's on a Saturday, we've been open from 12 to 4 on Saturdays. But if you're dropping by during the week, call ahead. We'll make an appointment for you, just like we did with Stephanie, and make sure that we have somebody at the store to show you around. So, I just want people to know that we're open and friendly, and we want to make sure that everyone's welcome, right?
Well, and you did that yesterday. You had someone from British Columbia, remember?
Yeah, yeah. I almost didn't let her in, Barb, because I was by myself and I was having a day. But then I relented. I said, "Yeah, come in. I just want you to know that I might have to take a package out to curbside and or answer the phone." And it just turned into a really lovely visit. And the phone didn't ring, and so
Oh,
it was good. We had a nice little one-on-one. Of course, keeping our distance and making sure that we were each respectful of each other's need to stay healthy. So
yeah.
it was really good.
We get asked about that every day, "Are you open yet? Are you open yet?" So it's so nice to be able to say, "Yes, you can come in on Saturday,"
Mhm.
or "You can make a one-on-one with me or you." It's great having that opportunity to do personal shopping, isn't it?
It is, and I think people don't quite understand why we're operating that way, and so it's good to explain that it's because of what we're facing right now. We're a very small team of people, and when one of us gets sick, that takes like 25% of our staffing is gone. And if both of
Sure.
us are sick, 50% of our staffing is gone. You and I work full time, and so, if you're sick, it's kind of like 50% of our staffing is gone. Fortunately, because of our transition to online, we are able to work from home for the most case. Like if you call me with a question about a yarn, I might be answering that question from home, and so that's made it nice in that if you do feel ill, you don't have to feel pressured to fill in a space that you shouldn't be filling in, right?
Mhm, yeah, and it just puts everything behind it a little bit though, right?
Yeah.
Because we're doing online orders, and so sometimes that gets a little backlogged, but we're so lucky to have Connie and Sabrina helping us.
Mhm.
And they're helping get all the curbside and the shipping orders out. And the other day too, somebody told me that, oh, it was Joe. He said he's never buying groceries in a grocery store anymore.
Yeah,
He's totally buying online. They never go into a grocery store anymore. So I thought, isn't that interesting? I
yeah.
think it's totally changed people's habits.
Well, yeah, and I was talking to a couple of people who have had COVID, and I asked them, because amongst us COVID people, we keep saying, "Do you know where you got it? Do you know where you might have got it?" And a couple of people that I've talked to are convinced that they got it in the grocery store. They just said that's the only place that I went to. That's the only place where I could have been exposed, and it's that they've dropped the habit of sanitizing their hands when they get back in the car, and they
Oh,
sort of blamed it
yeah.
on that, right? I wore a mask in the grocery store, but when I got back into my car, I didn't sanitize my hands. Um, so yeah, I mean, we don't want this podcast to be about COVID, and we certainly don't want it to be about where you got it from. That's not what we're about. So we'll get back on track. But yeah, I think embracing as much as you can the um, online benefits, if you will,
Mhm.
of being able to shop online. I tried Voila service from Safeway when my husband was sick because I didn't want to go into the grocery store, and it was really nice. There was one item that I put on my order that they didn't have, so they contacted me ahead of at time and said we've replaced it with this other thing. Are you okay with that? And so yeah, it was great.
Mhm.
Good. They put all the things in the back of my car, and it was contactless and easy. Um, just have to get a little more familiar with the website. I have to spend a little more
Yeah.
time doing it. But yeah,
And I think it's the same for us too. When I talk to customers, a lot of times they say, yeah, I don't mind ordering online, especially if it's yards that I've bought from you guys before, because, they know them, right?
right.
They're familiar with them. And you get a kind of, if you've been knitting for a while, you have your favorites. You know what you like,
Yeah.
so
Or
yeah.
you watch the podcast and you see us wearing something or showing you a yarn and talking about it and think, oh, well, I might like to try that. So,
Mhm.
for example, I'm wearing this sweater done in Woolstock, Blue Sky Fibers Woolstock, and it's one of my favorite yarns. I really like it. It's and I also like Epic, of course. But the reason why I like it is because they're 100% wool yarns, and so the stitch definition is really nice. There's nothing here to disrupt that stitch definition. Just kind of pops right off the surface of the sweater. So
Mhm.
we can give you good recommendations as well, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So let's move on, Barb. Let's talk about finished objects.
Mhm. Yeah.
During all this sickness, yeah. Do you have any finished objects you'd like to share with us?
I think I got a couple right behind you. I see those striped hats,
Yeah, yeah.
and I know I've been kind of obsessed with stripes ever since I started teaching the class about striping and fading and blending with yarns. And so, Cynthia, you had a couple patterns on in a workshop, I think it was, or maybe yeah, maybe it was even one of the free patterns. So I just did a little bit of a um, reconfig. Yeah, isn't that nice? That was my leftovers, Cynthia, from my sweater that I made. The Rosalite sweater, a Rowan sweater from last year's Rowan 70 magazine.
Okay. So
And so using the
what is
leftover.
what is this cowl? What is the yarn in this cowl?
Oh, well, one strand is Rowan cashmere chunky. I just had a one skein of it. And I can't believe how far it went when you only used it every second row. That looks great on you, by the way.
It does, doesn't it? Even with the tag hanging off the edge.
The tagging, it goes great with your new glasses.
It does.
And the other yarns were, I think, felted tweed with a little bit of kid mohair, kids like mohair silk. It's probably on the tag.
Oh, you're probably right.
Yeah.
So, is there a pattern for this, Barb?
Yes. It's yeah, where it's in your inbox.
Okay, so you've got the instructions written down. I just have
Yeah,
to turn it into a pattern. Put
it's
it into our pattern
coming.
template.
It's coming. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's gonna be called Round and Round We Go. Okay, and that one is your little basic beanie hat that we use to teach newbies how to knit hats. Now, your original pattern was knit flat and seamed up. I just did it in the round and started the helical stripes. But
Yes.
same sort of thing, isn't it? It's so soft to, just use leftovers.
Hmm. This is incredibly soft. And
Yeah.
so, did you use a big needle on it too?
I did, I think a 6 millimeter. And what did I use on the cowl? I think I used a 6 on the cowl as well.
All right, so it says on the tag here, it says 2 colors of yarn required, held double if DK or sport, and your gauge is 16 stitches over 4 inches. And
Right.
this helical striping, Barb, that's pretty cool. You're enjoying it, are you?
Oh my gosh, it's addictive. Yeah, I just love it.
Aren't you glad? Aren't you glad you learned how to do that?
Yes, I'm so happy. And what did that one say? Was that the same thing on did I put the needle size on? 6 mil?
No, it just says chunky gauge, yarns held double or triple, and helical stripes.
Oh, okay.
So, if you're wondering what helical stripes are, Barb and I have a class that we are teaching at an upcoming Rowan event. So,
Oh, yeah,
mhm,
that's right. We've
yeah,
got available, right, in the Rowan event?
yeah. So, Rowan has this online event called Rowan Connect, and it's happening. The next session is happening November 4th and 5th. That's a Friday and Saturday. You can sign up for the event and then you can sign up for individual classes. So, Barb and I are teaching 2 classes at Rowan Connect. One of them is called We've Got a Yarn for That. And that's a bit about yarn substitutions, or, you've got that ball of yarn in your stash and it's lost the label. And you're trying to figure out, I don't know, like, is it sport weight? Is it DK? Is it worsted? Um, and maybe you've got some confusion about what does DK mean, and what is this chainette yarn stuff they're talking about these days. So we've got a Rowan yarn for that. We'll help explain how to do substitutions and patterns and how to identify yarn that you've got on hand, or if you want to replace yarn. We've got some tips about how to make yarn a little bulkier, for
Now,
example.
tell the truth, this class evolved from all the questions that we've been asked over the last 2.5 years
Yes.
being closed.
Yes, you're right. It definitely did. And then we're teaching another class called creating fades and blends. And this class will teach you, one of the things you're going to learn in this class is how to do helical stripes. And the
Mhm.
idea behind this class is, again, it's a bit of a stash buster kind of idea, but it's like, you've got some yarn, not enough maybe to do, let's say, to do a sweater. But if you took this color and you added them together, you might have enough to do something significant. But maybe this yarn isn't exactly the same gauge as this yarn. So, how can you blend them together and create an overall kind of color story that makes sense? Doesn't look like you just patched it together, right? Um, and so we're going to be teaching these 2 classes. We've got a Rowan yarn for that, and creating fades and blends will teach you through swatches how to create fades and blends using stripes, using marls, and using some clever patterning. blend from one color to the next. So
Very exciting. Do you
yeah,
want to see the next two?
yeah. Oh, you got to put it on your head, Barb.
Okay. So this one is, what is this one? This one is Fleece Artist, the pink, Wisp. Do you
Oh,
remember Wisp?
yes, like a mohair.
Like a mohair.
Wow, that looks
Yeah,
great on you.
Wisp is so much fun, right? Because it's a chunky mohair. It seems like it's thin, but it's not. It's actually thicker. So I just held one strand of that. And then the navy is, what was that? Oh, it was like a ball of wool stock tinned, or wool folk tinned. I
Oh,
can't remember where we were, but I picked up a skein of, I think it was String Theory in Chicago. She carried Woolfolk, and I think I got a skein there. And so it's quite fine. It's like a sport weight. So I held it double, and I held a strand of really bright kid silk haze in a
oh,
bright blue in there. So there's 3 strands in the brim.
wow.
Oh, and here's one more.
Oh,
This one,
nice.
this one I just kind of whipped up last night. And this is, I believe it's 2 strands of Adam and Eve, held with, again, that there was so much left on that Woolfolk tinned skein
Hmm.
that it made another little beanie. And so this one I made a little bit shorter. I stopped at 5 inches like the pattern said,
Hmm.
and then did, and so it's more like more like a tight little beanie.
Oh, nice. It covers your earlobes, though.
Just barely.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does.
yeah. Oh, that's so nice. So you're just going through your stash and finding cool things and then knitting them into hats?
Anything soft, yeah, and colorful. And I'm just thinking I'll just give them away, as gifts or for charity.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad that you mentioned that, Barb, the idea of giving something away for charity. Sometimes we
Mm.
think that for charities, we need to use that acrylic yarn, that can go through the washing machine and get heavy abuse, but it doesn't actually warm anybody. Acrylic doesn't have the ability to warm like real wool does.
True. It's
Yeah.
very true.
And so I think it's a good idea to think about knitting for charity like we're knitting for a family. And maybe the hat that you give to charity comes with a hand wash if possible. Um, um, I mean, why do we assume that when we knit for charity that the person receiving it isn't able to hand wash it? And
Exactly.
does a hat need to be washed a lot? You know?
That's, that's just what was going through my mind, Cynthia. I was thinking the same thing. We were telepathic there. The
That's
other thing
good.
is, we've been knitting everything double lately, 2 strands. And how much superwash sock yarn do we have in our stash?
Yeah,
Life
exactly.
is worth.
Exactly. Speaking of hand wash, uh, well, not hand wash. Speaking of superwash yarn and finished objects, I have one to show you as well.
What have you got?
Okay, don't anybody tell Rachel and Hayden, but I'm making them Gryffindor hats from this Harry Potter knitting magic book. So
Yeah.
this hat right here on the cover, um, I'm trying to make 2. So I made 1. It's done. And
Holy.
this is the teen size. And so it fits me.
Wow.
So I thought, well, actually, I don't have that on quite right. Let me try this again. There we go. And so I thought, well, I better make it a little bit smaller for Rachel and Hayden. They have smaller heads than I do. So I'm using Hat Trick Semi-Solid. And I sure love knitting with this yarn. So
No,
for my second hat, I thought I would do a yellow brim instead of a red brim. And I'm doing the child size now. I think this is the smallest size in the pattern book. And it's stranded color work. So you got all those lovely strands on the inside.
mhm.
Yeah. And
Oh,
you
look
got
at
to,
that chart.
sorry?
Look at that chart.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? A lion or?
Yes. This is the Gryffindor lion. Hmm.
Gotcha. I'm not a Harry Potter
Yeah.
aficionado. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard, right? In stranded color work, you're going to get that, those little where you catch up the floats on the back. You're going to get um, a little bit of texture in the front. But I think once you put it on, it looks
That's
pretty,
amazing.
it looks pretty Gryffindorish.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's one of the things I'm working on. So that's an FO and a whip.
So, and grandma will also have a matching hat to the kids. Is that it?
Yeah, I think the hat that I put on might fit Rachel as well and be kind of slouchy in the back. So we'll see. And when I'm done, I'll use my leftover yarn to make a pom pom to put on top. So that will weigh it down and make it a bit slouchier. But yeah, it's funny. Hey, you think it's hard. The hat is tall because the chart is tall, and so
Yeah.
all the hats are the same depth. They're just a little narrower around. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's all right. Slouchy's good. And then coming up this month, we're one of the vendors that we're having in for a pop-up shop is Ginger Snaps from Calgary. And so when they were at Fiber Frolic this spring, I bought some yarn to make a pair of socks from them. And so I'm doing two socks at the same time. Uh,
Nice.
yeah, and I'm having a blast. These are the socks that I knit while I read during story time. So I've got a little progress keeper in here, and that way I know how much I knit during story time, and on two socks. So that helps me to
Ah,
feel like I'm making progress. Ah,
yeah. Now you know what that colorway reminds me of?
hmm.
Our next Yarnicorn.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll have to bring
What
that
is
out.
that colorway that you've got?
So this is Ginger Snap, and it's called Nocturnal, and it's their fingering weight zebra effect. So some of the strands in the ball, not all of them, but some of the strands have that little barber pole effect.
Oh yeah. And so where do you see that in the sock? Can you hold that up
Well,
again?
it's pretty blended. It's pretty blended in. I'll take another photo. I'll take a close-up photo and insert it in the video. You can't really see it in the sock.
Okay.
Yeah, but it just gives it when you're knitting with it, it's just kind of fun to see that barber pole effect come in. And of
Ah,
course, I've chosen a very dark colorway here. So in some of their lighter colors, you might see that barber pole effect a little bit more. But it just blends right in. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So that's my finished object whip and another whip. Um, but I wanted to get some socks done so I could bring them in and show Kim and Colin from Ginger Snap
Mhm.
that I've been, working with their yarn. It's really pretty.
Yes.
We also have, in addition to Ginger Snap, they're coming towards the end of October. We have a local vendor called JJ Wool Company, and I happened to bring my backpack that I bought.
Oh, I gotta see this.
Yeah, this is really nice. So JJ Wool Company upcycles wool products. Yeah, I'm gonna steal the whole spotlight here for a
Yeah.
second. Uh, just do this. Here we go. JJ Wool does upcycled wool projects. So they've taken a wool suit, like a suit jacket, and they've turned it into this backpack. and they've used a special kind of like water resistant canvas for the back of it. Because one of the Jays, if not both of them, are bike riders, and they wanted to make sure that if you were wearing this backpack while you were bike riding, that the wool wouldn't make you all hot and sweaty. So it's cotton on the back and the bottom, and then the front is wool. And it's got these gorgeous zippers with little leather toggles on them, so you can put some items in here. And then it's got just a quick drawstring top on it. So they're coming at towards the end of October as well. And JJ Wool they have bags, they have ponchos, they have um, little cases, they have all kinds of cool things that they've taken wool sweaters and jackets and other things that they've thrift shopped for and turned them into other beautiful things. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, and then we're also having a little bit earlier in October, we're having another company called Rose Hill Yarns come and do a pop-up shop with us. They're coming on October the 15th. And
Mhm.
Ginger Snap and JJ Wool Company will be with us on October 29th.
Yeah. So that's great. So that's kind of our little lineup for our pop-up shops in October.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And we've been
Right.
having so much fun with these in-store vendors. And of course, our stashes have become like a little bigger.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, so there's one more finished object, Barb. I
Okay.
almost forgot about it, and that's just over my shoulder here. We did
Yeah.
up a new version of the Laurentian blanket, so just give me a second and I'll pull that out forward.
Okay. Oh, yeah, this is exciting. You showed me this, I
Yeah,
think.
I'm gonna hog the spotlight and stand up to show you this.
Oh my gosh. So if any of you have seen this Laurentian, we have a big version of this one where the squares are probably 3 times the size. And this one is the cutest mini version. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
so
so
it's actually the same blanket. Um, so all the blanket pattern's the same. It's just the size of the squares that are different. So
mhm.
there's a baby version, there's a lap blanket version, and then there's a full throw version. And in some of our podcasts, you may have seen the throw version behind us in the background. It's done in grays, black, gold, and cream. So we thought let's try some different colors in this one. So we've used navy, we've used marine blue, we've used the morning sky, the light blue, cream, and camel. But Barbara, Connie and I were talking about this today, and we were saying, wouldn't it be cool if in place of the camel, you used a skein of hand painted yarn?
Yes.
You have that pop of variegated color right in the middle of this. Be so
Yeah, that would
cool.
be really cool.
So this baby version requires it's 5 colors, and for the baby version you need 1 ball of each of the 4 colors and 2 balls of the main color. Except that I cheated a little bit, and instead of using the main color to do my border, for us the main color was the cream. I used the navy instead. I like the idea of kind of anchoring these bottom and top squares, or triangles, I should say, in the border.
Right?
So I actually only used 5 balls of yarn instead of 6.
Wow. And did you use the whole ball or did you have leftovers from each ball?
There are quite a bit. Yeah, the cream, the cream had almost no leftovers. So the cream in this case, the cream was the main color, and you use it for more. Use it for more stripes. Now that I say it, looks like this one was used more. Maybe this one was the main color. I can't even remember. So yes, there were leftovers. we had 2 balls of the cream that we had allocated for this project, and 1 ball I didn't use.
Mm.
But it's such a lovely blanket design. This one was designed for us by Holly Yo, who's a designer in Vancouver, and you know it's modular. So I did have to weave in some ends on the back, but only where you stopped using that color. So these are all done in rows. Um, what do I mean by that? Just talk about it here. So you do all these blue squares here, and then on the return row you do these light blue squares, and then on the next row you do the white squares. So you're not changing colors, you're not sewing anything together. It's all done in one piece, and the border is done in one piece.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's a great pattern. If you haven't done any modular knitting before, or you've heard of entrelac but you weren't sure what it was about, or you did it but it was like ages ago, we have a class coming up with Holly Yo called Entrelac in the Round. And in this class, you're going to make those entrelac diamonds, but you're going to turn them into a little cuff for the bottom of a mitten or a wrister if you want. And this class comes with a pattern for Holly's pulse point mittens. So you'll do the cuff in class, and then you can carry on and finish off the mittens at your leisure. That class is happening, just looking at my little cheat sheet here. That class is happening on Thursday, October 27th. It's called Entrelac in the Round with Holly Yo. So
Nice.
I invite you all to take the class, and then, for your second project, maybe you want to do an entrelac blanket.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep it here on my
Wouldn't wouldn't it make a great gift too for somebody who's having a baby, or because it's the perfect size just to put on the floor and
Mhm.
then let your little one play on it, or
Yeah,
it could be a stroller or a car seat cover up.
yeah,
It's great.
yeah, it is
Oh, sharing that.
perfect. So that, I believe, now is all of my finished objects.
Ah, I have my JJ woolen easy folded poncho in the next room.
Well,
You got me for my birthday.
maybe you should go and grab it.
Yeah, would you like to see it?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, I'll be right back.
All right, so you popped out of the room and then you
Yeah,
popped back in again. So show us your poncho.
this is so nice, Cynthia. So this is all recycled cashmere, and it's so soft. I'm telling you, you picked the nicest gift. And then over here, let's see if I can. Oh, here on this shoulder, do you see this woven fabric?
Yeah,
So this is hand woven by Neat Knits, by Angela from Neat Knits. And the girls at JJ Woolens did a collaboration with her and took some of her woven fabric and then matched it up with other colors. These are all recycled cashmeres in blues, navies, and turquoises.
that's lovely.
I love it. They love the way the patchwork sort of look for it
Mhm.
and the woven fabric. And it's so cuddly and warm. It's perfect when have a cold.
Aw,
So thank you, thank you, thank you.
you're so welcome. I'm really glad. That's fantastic. Ah, good. Well, I'm glad you're finding some comfort in
Mm,
something. It just sucks to be sick, right?
I know.
Mhm.
And thanks for putting up with all my coughing and sneezing and hacking.
Thank you, audience. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully
We
a lot of that cut out.
yeah, I'm gonna spend the rest of my evening going through and slicing out little bits of audio. Mm.
Yeah. Oh my God. Hopefully it doesn't get on the screen.
So we have a yarn to talk about, Barb.
We do.
We
Yeah.
do. It's Yarnicorn coming
Mhm.
up this month. So on the 20th of each month, we present a brand new yarn to you. It's a yarn that we've asked a special hand dyer to dye for us according to, our story or instructions that are coming out. And so the one for October 20th, it's not available yet. If you want to buy Yarnicorn now, you'll have to buy Bee's Knees. But on October 20th, we'll put out this new yarn, and it's called Second to None. You want to
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about that, Barb?
I can't believe it, Cynthia, that this is almost we only have 2 more Yarnicorns after this one.
Yeah.
So this one's for October. It's called Second to None. And the whole idea is that it's better than all others of the same kind. That was the idea behind it.
Mhm.
And when I talked to Jana about this from Handmaiden, she said, "Oh my gosh," she said, "this really inspired me to think about that time that she took a swim in the ocean at night and saw the phosphorescence in the ocean."
It's
Have
you
you
can
ever
just see it on the skein. It's amazing.
Isn't it amazing? Have you ever seen phosphorescence, like photos of pictures of the ocean?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, but that's just it, only pictures, and now I feel like I'm holding it in my hands.
Honest to God, this is inspired by and it's actually called bioluminescence. It's the light that's produced by a chemical reaction within a living organism. So it happens in the ocean, and it happens, I think fireflies, when they rub their legs together, they get this little spark. This is all kind of the same sort of thing from what I'm told. And Janet said that there was a time where she was lucky enough to swim in the bioluminescence off of the coast of Cape Breton. It was one summer evening long ago. It was magical for her. And the colorway, she designed it from memory. So it's got the lighter and the darker parts of the skylight. It's got the deep blue ocean. And then she added a purple gray
Yeah,
to for the rocks.
right. Yes,
So
so I'll take another little video clip of this to show it to you up close. But yeah, there's this gorgeous purple gray, and then the navy is so dark, and then this sort of teal just pops right out of it. That's gonna look so
well,
cool.
it's almost a bit of a neon too, isn't it?
Yeah, the teal. Yeah, it does. It looks like it just looks exactly like bioluminescence. It's
Mhm.
incredible. Those guys at Handmaiden, they're just so amazing.
Aren't they amazing?
Barb,
Think,
this yarn feels so soft.
I know. I know. Think of all the things you could make out of that too. Like that would make an amazing sweater. It would make, a beautiful cowl.
Yeah,
Um, you could make little slipper socks out of, I mean, anything.
yeah. This is made out
I
of
al-
Eden, Barb. It's Eden.
yeah.
I didn't
Yes.
know that.
Yes, this is Eden. Yeah, this is our 80-10-10 merino cashmere nylon. You could just wear it as a skein around your neck.
Who needs to knit it up when you can just have it cozy around your neck?
That looks great on you. Just a reminder too that $2 from the sale of every skein of Yarnicorn this month is going to go to Oceans North. This is a charitable organization that supports marine conservation in partnership with Indigenous and coastal communities. And they foster science and community-based conservation in the Arctic and the Atlantic regions of Canada, as well as Western Greenland.
Wow.
This was a charity that Jana recommended, and I thought, wow, that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah. Okay, so this is Eden, which means that you're getting a 115 gram skein, 195 meters. It's a machine washable, superwash merino, cashmere, nylon blend, and it is squishy and soft and gorgeous. And whether you're a marine biologist or someone near the ocean or someone near the forest or someone who just loves gorgeous and unusual colors, this one is second to none. It'll be available on October 20th, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And I grab it while you can because it's just second to none. No other way to
Wow,
describe it.
that was a wonderful introduction and wrap up. I want 5 of those right now.
Yeah. Well, 5 would probably do you a sweater.
Wouldn't it? Or
Yeah,
an easy folded poncho? Imagine that
that'd be
too.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. Well, you know what? We've been talking a little bit about new yarn, and we should also give people an update on another, knit along that we started in September. That right at
Yes,
the end of September, we started a Sleeve Island knit along, and we've been swatching ever since that began. How about if I show you my swatches, Barb, and then you show me yours?
yes,
Sound good?
okay.
Okay, so Barb and I are doing this kind of like uh, we're doing this as a project where you pick there's 2 vests. We call it Sleeve Island because we don't want to do any sleeves. So you pick a vest pattern. There's 2 to pick from. One is called Geneva, and it's a cabled design by Toronto designer Fiona Ellis. And the other one is Rutherford, which is an Intarsha design by Vancouver-based designer Holly Yeo. And so I've been swatching this swatch here. Well, first of all, we started off with swatches to try and get gauge. So I've got 3 swatches here that I did on different size needles, a 3.75 or US 5, and then I did a swatch on a 4 millimeter US 6, and then on a 4.5 millimeter US 7. And I kept careful note of my gauge on each of these swatches so that I could find the right gauge for my patterns. And then I gauged in pattern. So this is a gauge swatch where I did the Intarsha. I did both the diamond and the cross hatching in Intarsha to see what if that changed my gauge and if I liked doing it that way. And then I did a swatch for Geneva where I just practiced the cables. So I did my swatch with one of the cable motifs from the pattern, and then I will measure my gauge across my cabled section. So these swatches are about approximately 6 inches by 6 inches. And I'm learning that, they could actually even be bigger, and that wouldn't be a bad thing. But that's one of the first things you need to do when it comes to doing a project like this is to ensure that you've done enough swatches. So over
Mhm.
to you, Barb. Show us your swatches.
Right. Well, you and I talked about this and, about doing a vest. And as we were looking at the pattern, it occurred to me that, oh my gosh, I think we could knit this on the knitting machine. I have a group of machine knitters that meet once a month, and they all want to do a sweater, but some of them are a little bit scared, to do one on their machine. They haven't done one before. So we thought, oh, maybe a vest might be a nice thing to do, and it would get us kind of practicing and in the groove to use your machine. So I too did lots of swatches. I was going to knit my sweater out of this really nice steel gray color, so I did my swatches out of that. And I swatched actually almost all the sizes within a range on my machine, from a small of a 3 to where I got a fabric that was fairly dense. Here's my 3 and my 3.5. So this fabric is a little stiffer, and I think it would make, great hats or mitts where you wanted a stitch this one's about 23 and 24 stitches to 4 inches. So maybe more like DK
Mhm.
gauge, and all the way up to a fun one where this is 18 stitches in 24 rows. And then this was my biggest one. We did this on a size 7 and got 17 stitches in 24 rows. So it was really interesting to see, just by changing the stitch dial, how you could get different size swatches. And also interesting to see how the stitch size changed in some cases, but not the row size. The row gauge kind of stayed the same, which was really interesting. When I got to the 4 and the 4.5, I realized that was the sweet spot for the Geneva and the Rutherford vests. That got me gauge on both. This one was 22 stitches and 31 rows. This one was 20 stitches. And so this kind of got me in the range to get gauge for the vest patterns. And that helped me figure out what stitch size to use. And that's what I'm using to create this. I just finished the back of
Nice.
Rutherford. So I'm just going to start here. This is the little back motif.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool? Here's what it looks like on the back side. I haven't woven anything in yet.
So you did that in Tarsha on your machine? Amazing.
I started it off just by hand manipulation, where I hold certain needles back and knit on other needles, and then move the other needles on to hold and knit on the other side. So it was all hand manipulation. And then once I got the setup done, I have an intarsia carriage, and I was just able to lay my yarns over the needles in the colored sections that I want and run the carriage over, and it knit them all automatically.
Wow.
I know, it's amazing, this little intarsia carriage.
Yeah.
So I think it looks pretty good for
Yeah.
my first run at it.
I'd say
And then,
so.
yeah, here's the armholes. It even has some really nice, fully fashioned decreases along the edge. Well, you might not. This still needs to be blocked. And then I also was able to do a 1x1 ribbing and a tubular cast on, which I'm loving.
Nice.
Isn't that a nice edge?
Mm-hmm.
So that was done all on the machine.
Wow.
It took way longer to plan it out and to figure out the stitches and rows to knit than it did to knit it.
Yeah, for sure. For
Mhm.
sure. Well, that's really good. So this sleeve island knit along is it's about halfway through, and so if if it's too late to join this round, but if you think this is a good idea, we'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to, if you'd like us to repeat this and do another one, make sure to let us know in the comments that you think this is something that you'd be interested in.
Mm.
We
Yeah,
do,
because now we've done all the work to figure it out. I'd love to run it again.
right?
You know, yeah, it'd be a great one.
It's
Oh,
not a class, right? It's a knit along, but we always want to be prepared for all the questions. So we've been doing a lot of kind of background work and making sure that we have our answers lined up for you before we get to that point.
I think we should turn it into a class, Cynthia.
Mm.
There's so much in here to learn.
Mm-hmm.
There's ribbing, there's intarsia, there's seaming, there's picking up stitches along the edge. And is it too late for people to join?
Yeah, it's too late for people to join this one, But
Oh,
we do have a class coming up with Anne Budd on designing your own sweater. And so if you like this idea, but you don't necessarily want to do Geneva or Rutherford, and maybe you'd like to have sleeves instead of a sleeveless vest, we have a class coming up with Anne called Design Your Own Sweater. And she'll take, it's a sweater done from the bottom up, done in pieces with seaming. It's a modified set-in sleeve. So a modified shoulder, you do have a little cut in, but it's an easy style of sweater to learn how to make your own decisions. What kind of pattern do you want on it? What chest size do you want it to be? How long do you want the sweater to be? How long do you want your sleeves? What if you want your sleeves shorter? So Anne will explain all the things that go into designing your own sweater using a very basic sweater pattern. It can be a pullover or it can be a cardigan. There are lots of choices for you to make. And then again, put into the comments if you think you'd like us to run our Sleeve Island knit along again. If it's something you'd be interested in, you're sad that you missed out on this opportunity, put that in the comments and we'll look at scheduling another one.
we just love the idea of not having to knit sleeves. Let's be honest. That's what it's all about. That's why I knit so many easy folded ponchos because it's so freeing not to have to worry about sleeves.
Yes,
And I think vests this season are really on trend. I'm seeing them
absolutely.
everywhere.
Yeah. And, you and I had talked also about the possibility of doing Rutherford without the intarsia. So Rutherford is a vest that has these beautiful little diamonds and cross hatching on it. But if intarsia isn't your thing, or you find it intimidating, or you'd like to learn it, but maybe a little bit later, you could just do Rutherford as a plain vest. It's a gorgeous design, and Holly has a lot of details, like the English tailored shoulder that's in there, and those fully fashioned decreases along the armhole edge. So there's a lot to learn in it while you skip the intarsia. And then if you decide after all of that that you really would have liked some embellishment on it, again, you're gonna get tired of hearing me say this, but we have a class coming up with Fiona Ellis called Embellishing on Your Hand Knits. Called I
Yeah.
don't focus on embroidery, but it's embellishing on your hand knits. So Fiona's going to teach us embroidery techniques that work really well on stockinette stitch fabric, which is what your Rutherford vest would be if you didn't do the intarsia, right?
Well, and it just opens up the possibility for so many more ideas. I took Fiona's first class and worked with her doing a swatch. And oh my God, you could put beads on it. You could, embellish it with just embroidery stitches.
Yeah,
You could turn the intarsia into something completely different.
yeah,
So you're right. It'd be great um, to hear from Fiona about ideas she might even have for that.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So there's some there's some really lovely things coming up. And what I'll do is, again, at the end of this podcast, I'll put in a little link to a chat that Fiona and I had about this class. So you can watch that chat and be inspired by all of her embroidery techniques. I think you'll find that, whether or not you want to make a Rutherford vest without the intarsia, or maybe you just have a sweater um, in your wardrobe. It could be store bought that you just want to add a bit of life to, or new life to. That's the beauty of embroidering on your hand knits. I mean, when you get bored of it, you can just pick it off and put something new on.
Yes, yes, for sure.
hmm We also have a crochet along coming up. So crocheters, we want to make sure you don't feel left out. We do love to crochet here at River City Yarns. And so we've got a crochet along coming up, and it's a baby blanket. It's the Church Mouse Yarns and Tea vintage baby blanket, and it uses the V-stitch and double V-stitch. You need to know how to crochet to take this crochet along. It's not a learn to class. but you don't have to know a ton of crochet. You need to
Mhm.
know how to make a chain. You need to know how to make a double crochet, and pretty much that's it. We're going to start off with some swatches and get you comfortable with the pattern design. We're going to talk to you about maybe doubling up some fingering weight yarn if you want to play around with color and color blends. I created one that was a marl by alternating colors as I went through the blanket repeats, going from dark to light, just double stranding yarn, and it was a lot of fun. I'm going to do something a little bit similar this time around, only it'll be more of a fade than a marl, but I will use marling as a technique. So you should take a look at that if you're a crocheter and you want to do something fun, or if you're a mediocre crocheter and you want to improve your skills. This crochet along will be a lot of fun for you. We've got a lot of classes coming up in October and November, and I don't want to bore you with that, but I want to make sure that you know what's happening because there's a lot of good stuff. Barb and I participate in a lovely program called Fiberside Chats that is hosted by our friends at Longmont Yarn Shop in Colorado. And they've got this coming Sunday, October the 9th, they have Nancy Bates coming. She is the author of a book called Knitting the National Parks, and she's created a beanie hat for every one of the US national parks. I think, Barb, we should try and convince Nancy to come up north and maybe do a second book based on Canadian national parks. Um,
Yeah,
but
that would be great.
we've seen some of our friends have knit some of the hats out of Nancy's book, and they are amazing. She's really managed to capture the essence of those national parks. So I think that would be a really good Fiberside chat to attend. There's information and details on our website. So it's every 2 weeks on Sundays that Fiberside chats take place. And following Nancy Bates is again our friend, Stephanie Pearl McPhee. She'll be the featured guest on the Fiberside chat on October 23rd. And she's going to be talking about strange and true facts, history, and stories. And I didn't tell you this, Barb, but Stephanie told me a little bit about what she's going to talk about, and it's going to blow your mind. So
Oh,
you cannot miss this chat with Stephanie Pearl McPhee.
okay.
Check out the Fiberside chats. Um, Before Halloween, we've got Fiona coming back to teach an introduction to cables class. So if you are intrigued by this, I had so much fun knitting this swatch. It's got me, it's kind of got my mojo back into doing cables again. And so she's doing an introduction to cables class. So she'll teach you how to manipulate cables, but she'll talk to you about cabling in such a way that not only will you be inspired to do cables, but you'll understand how they work. And so if you want to take a pattern and do your own cable design, you'll have a much better understanding of how cables work and how you can move those stitches around to create more designs of your own. This one that I held up, this is from Geneva, and this incorporates regular cabling like this with Celtic cabling. And that's what, when you create these round shapes or that look more like knots, then you get into a slightly more complex cabling style. So Fiona's doing an introduction to cables this month, and then next month, we're having her come back to do a class on Celtic cables. So you should take the intro to cables class. You definitely should do that. And then you should come back and do the Celtic cables as well, because that's also a gorgeous way to liven up any kind of knitwear. Um, and who knows, you may just end up making some beautiful cable boot cuffs for people this fall and winter. So you should definitely come out for that one. The introduction to cables class is happening on October 26th.
Cynthia, I
um,
just add, I wanted to say thank you to you for all the work that you've done in organizing some of these classes because, I heard you say, I don't want to bore anyone with the classes. I think that we're probably one of the only podcasts out there that focus on a whole realm of learning opportunities. And Boris, I don't think so. I think this is so exciting to be able to come to one location and find everything you might want to find about knitting and crochet technique. So let's really feel really great about what we're doing here because this is amazing.
You're absolutely right, Barbara. And I think the beauty of Zoom is that we're able to have these wonderful instructors come. You get
Yes.
the best seat in the house because you're going to be able to see what they're working on, and with a very professional presentation style. Plus,
Yeah.
we record the sessions. So if you are, if you have bad internet, if you just, if you're sick and you're not able to sit up and participate in the class, you have a week to watch the recording after the live event. And sometimes that's even kind of like fail safe, like let's say you fall behind because you're just not as fast as everybody else doing it for the first time.
Yeah, or
Or,
you might wanna just watch it again.
yes.
Go over that part one more time because some of us are slower learners than others.
Yeah, well, and some of us, I know for myself, I find that I learn better if I'm paying attention and watching the first time through. If
Mm,
I'm trying to look at my own work and watch the instructor at the same time, that's much harder for me. I don't get it all. But if I watch the instructor do the demo and then practice it, it's much easier for me. So sometimes I just wait for the recording, watch it, hit pause, and then catch up to the instructor.
mhm. Yeah,
But our instructors are really good. They're well, they've been doing this for a long time. They know how to pace themselves. They know what questions to ask to make sure that you're understanding as you go along. And the
mhm,
platform allows you to ask questions at any time, so I'm really pleased with the Zoom platform, I have to say. If
yeah,
COVID did us any favors, that's probably one of the biggest ones.
yeah. Have you got any other, fiber-side chats coming up? Oh,
Yes. There's
salt butter.
Yeah, there's 2 coming up in October, and then in November, we have, um, Berger Berger, who is a Norwegian designer. He's coming in, to do it, and then there is still they haven't booked anyone for the second date in November, but December the 4th, our friends Shirley Scott and Christine Legros are coming to Fiberside Chats to talk about their new book, Saltwater Socks.
I just heard today that the book's landed in Canada. The publisher has it. They're distributing it. We should have it in a week or so.
Okay, so if you want this latest book in the Saltwater series, it's available on our website by pre-order. So you should go ahead and pre-order your book. Barb says they're on their way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's such a cool looking book. I've never seen socks like that. It's really amazing. I just seen a few pictures from the book, but if it's anything like their mitten and their gift book, this one's going to be a hot seller. Really,
Yeah.
something you want in your library.
It's all the books. This is the fourth in the series, and all of their books capture the knitting charm from the island of Newfoundland. And as everybody around the world, I'm sure, knows about the hospitality and the warmth of Newfoundlanders. And we are so lucky to have Newfoundlanders as part of our Canadian Confederation. And Shirley and Christine are, they're just kind of the best representation of Newfoundlanders and Newfoundland knitting. So they're going to talk about the Newfoundland knitting traditions, how you can tell Newfoundland knits apart from other maritime knitting styles. And they'll talk about their new book. And even if you're not a knitter, if you know a knitter, you should buy them this book. It's just charming and delightful. So you definitely need to get it. So yeah, that's the
First book,
Fiberside chat lineup as is for now. There are just 2 more classes that River City Yarns is hosting that I want to make sure everybody knows about. The first one is called Fixing Mistakes in Lace and Cables, and it's with Holly Yo. This, again, is an essential class, folks. If you've ever, well, maybe you haven't, but it's so likely to happen. You miscross a cable. You meant to go this way and you ended up going this way and you didn't notice it until you were 4 inches above it. And, nobody wants to rip back that much knitting to fix a cable. Holly's going to show you how to fix it by laddering down and working yourself back up again. She's also going to cover mistakes in lace knitting. And the best part, folks, is you're going to do it with her because you get a homework swatch that she's purposely put mistakes into so that you can practice fixing those mistakes for yourself. It's one thing to see somebody do it. It's another thing to try it yourself, right? And you don't want to try it, trust me, on that lace shawl that took 1,000 meters of spider web yarn. You want to try it on a swatch first, right? So this is a great class coming up on November the 2nd. And then Holly's coming back to do tiptoe up socks. Again, an extremely popular class. You're going to knit a pair of socks from the toe up, and Holly's going to show you how to do a Turkish cast on, an afterthought heel, and a sewn bind off without a sewing needle. Okay, why is that so cool? If you're a left-hander, this is going to make your life joyful. Left-handers, I know you're sick and tired of seeing us right-handers show you how to do a sewn bind off. So Holly's method doesn't require a wool needle, and therefore it is ambidextrous. You can do it with your knitting needles.
Wow, so much to learn in that class. That's a real value class, isn't it?
It
And
is.
you
Yeah.
get to knit along with Holly?
Yes, Holly's Holly's an instructor who plans her time really carefully, gives you lots of good suggestions, and makes sure that you have time to knit along with her. Absolutely. So yes. Mm.
So it's really November is kind of like sock month then, isn't it? Wow. We got a lot of sock related things happening.
Yeah, and you know what? And I haven't finished booking classes with Kate Atherley yet, so there'll be more sock stuff coming up for sure.
Cool.
There's so I'll put all the links to everything that we've talked about in the show notes down below this screen that you're looking at right now. So just open up the notes below and there'll be links to everything that we are talking about here today. While you're there, if you felt like pressing the like button, we wouldn't say no to that. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, we always encourage you to do that too. And the good thing about subscribing is that every time we publish something, you'll get notifications, so you'll know that it's there.
What a prize.
And prizes. So every month so far for the last 3 months, we've been giving away a prize on our podcast. And last month, we showed you this beautiful project bag with some gorgeous little goodies in it. And so we picked a name from our comments list. And Barb, do you want to announce the winning name?
Sure. You told me that you selected Judy Stiles.
That's right. So congratulations, Judy. We'll be getting in touch with you and we'll arrange for pickup or send you the prize from our September podcast. And then we're going to do it again. So we went through our stash of fun stuff and we came up with another prize for this month. And it's a kit to learn how to do brioche. This is a kit that we picked up from some friends of ours at they've started a learning channel, and they're called, when I turned the page around, they're called Stitch Sprouts, and they put together this kit. So the kit contains 2 skeins of gorgeous yarn. There's a deep purple and a turquoise blue.
I think that must have been yours, Cynthia, because those are your colors, aren't they?
I probably picked this kit out for sure. Yeah. And then inside the package, you'll get their class instructions. So written out how to, for all the things you need to know to be able to do brioche. And then there's a pattern so that you can create a brioche cowl like the one.
That's so cool.
So everything's in here except for the needles. And we want to give this away on our podcast. So we're just going to ask you to put a note in the comments. And, Barb, what do you think about our really, really like theme?
I love it.
Okay. So what we're going to do is you just have to leave a comment for us. And in the comment section, say, I really, 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 really like the kit. And you don't have to mention that it's brioche. We don't have to be too specific. Just say you really, really, really like it. And then we'll put your name into our draw. And on our next podcast, we'll announce a winner.
Brioche is one of those things that, Cynthia, that I think you can never have enough help or instruction doing. Right? I think I've taken like 3 or 4 brioche classes, and I still I don't do it as much as I should. But it's the only technique I know of that creates this beautiful width in fabric. Not so much height, but lots of width. Mm-hmm. So I think it's something that every maker needs to have in their toolkit.
Yes, it's squishy, and it's if you do 2-color brioche, you get that reversible effect where one color is more predominant on one side, So I definitely think brioche is in everybody's toolkit, and it sort of makes me think, Barb, do you think I should maybe put in a call to our friend Carissa Browning and see if she'll teach a brioche class for us?
Yes, absolutely. And tell us if you want Cynthia to bring in a brioche class. That would be great.
Carissa does a fantastic job. She's taught brioche for us before, and I'm just so impressed with her ability to kind of troubleshoot. Okay. Do that. Leave us a comment. Give us a thumbs up. We always like that. And tell us that you really, really like the cowl kit and what you think about upcoming classes. And I think, Barb, that's the end of our agenda. I think we've covered all the topics.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I think I need to go take a Tylenol.
You get better, friend. You get better.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We're so glad to have you here with us, and we hope to see you again very soon. Stay on for all the little links to the other videos we talked about.
Mm-hmm. All right. See you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.